Okay, welcome to the Citizen Advisory Committee's public meeting for February 27th. We're calling the meeting to order at 4:05. I'm Kimber Landry, Community Development Manager. I'm just going to go through a couple of rules that we have for participants and just overall procedures, and then we will get started on what will hopefully be a brief but engaging agenda for today. So first we want to start with the land acknowledgement. So I'm going to have Vicki Dorway, our Community Development Specialist, go through the land acknowledgement for us.
Okay. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stohopsh people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you, Vicki. So just again, some overall procedures for our meetings. We are asking that everyone mute their microphones as best as they are able until you're ready to speak. We are requesting that our committee members continue to keep their cameras on if they are joining us virtually, and thank you to the committee members that are here with us in the room. Also, if you're a guest or otherwise participating, we're asking that you just keep not only audio but video off as well unless you're called upon to speak. If the public is watching or wants to be able to pull this up later, we can access our meeting through various ways. First, this of course is being broadcast on the Everett TV channel, but it will also be on our Everett YouTube channel. We also have a public call-in number. I'm going to read that out just in case. It's 425-616-3920, and there's a conference ID of 724-887-726#. Or this can also be accessed online with our Citizen Advisory Board webpage on everettwa.gov. Members of the public wishing to learn more about the content of the meeting or any other discussion points that we're having tonight may do so by reaching out to community development staff. I'm asking that the person that be in charge of that is Vicki, our Community Development Specialist. So anybody with comments or would like to learn more, please email Vicki at vdorway, DORWAY, @everettwa.gov. With that, I'm going to pass it back over to Vicki to do roll call.
Okay, great. So welcome everyone. So I'm going to call out each committee member's name and just let me know if you are present, even though I can see some of you in the room and on the screen. But so Alexis, and will you pronounce Boyce?
Boys, like boys and girls.
Okay, Alexis Boyce.
Here.
Okay. Michael O'Gorman. Josh Brunner.
Here.
Okay. Michelle Martin.
Here.
Okay. Samantha Hassan. Okay. Christopher Dingle. Molly Eberhardt. Susan Mosshart.
Right here.
And Christina Aho. All right. So that is, I'll go ahead and ask staff to identify themselves. We've met one staff person. We just want to say your name again.
Sure, yes. Kimber Landry, Community Development Manager.
And then Chelsea, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Chelsea Monroe, Project Coordinator with the Community Development Division.
Okay. And I'm Vicki Dorway, Community Development Specialist. And so normally the chair would call on each committee member while we're having a discussion and questions come up. But for today's meeting, it's going to be facilitated by staff. So we ask, if you're in person, raise your hand if you want to speak. And if you are virtual, please use the raise your hand function so that we may call on you when it's appropriate for questions. And I'll turn it back over to Kimbra.
Great, thank you, Vicki. I think that we could probably manage it. We have a small team today. I'm hoping that more committee members continue to show up so that we can have a good discussion about what we're about to get into. But if not, we can also just continue to loop them in. Most important thing is I think that we're all starting to have good engagement with what we're going to be doing this year. So I'm going to ask that Vicki prepare our PowerPoint presentation to come up. But before I even do that, there is an item where I do want to welcome our new committee member. Alexis, if you don't mind saying your full name and then maybe a brief statement about why you wanted to join the committee. And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but.
Hi, my name is Alexis Boys, and I moved to Everett about 5 years ago. I think it's just really important that we not just live here, that we become involved in our community. And where I live, things can be a little challenging, and to be a part of the solution and bringing more beauty to Everett would just make my heart so happy. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Alexis. Okay, with that, the other thing that I kind of need to bring up is that we need to have a discussion about officers. I know that right now, because we only have 4 committee members present, we're not technically meeting quorum, and so we cannot do appointment of any members today for officer positions. But I'm going to just go ahead and recognize in this discussion. So Samantha Hassan, who is our current chair, notified us very, very recently that she is having to step away from being the chair of the committee. That is, she's gotten a wonderful opportunity at work that is going to pull her away from her availability to be able to dedicate time to being our chair. So we need to just kind of do what we can to kind of see if we can get a chair appointed, maybe even a new chair, one that has not already served on our committee. Although we do very much appreciate the work of our past chairs, we want to continue to have the opportunity to be able to circulate between all committee members. So we will be probably after this, because we do not have quorum, because we do not have a majority of members on this meeting to hear this discussion today, send out an email following asking for us to make this consideration for the next time that we meet in March. With that, now I will formally ask that we start the PowerPoint presentation so we can talk about what it is that we're doing. Any questions thus far from anybody? Making sure it doesn't look like it, doesn't sound like it. Going once, going twice, none heard, moving forward. Okay. Okay, so today we're going to talk about this kind of a kickoff and also an overview for the 2025 to 2024 consolidated plan and the outreach and engagement efforts that we're going to be doing for this. That's a lot of big words. It's a lot of new stuff. We're going to do a brief overview of kind of some basic principles with this. For those that are probably more familiar with it, you can, following along as needed, but there will be a point where I do want you to kind of plug back into what we're discussing, and that will and I will notify you when that happens. So Vicki. Okay, so the first thing is that let's just revisit what it is that we kind of do, what we're about to get into, overview of just everything that we have. So a few common terms, because we all work in an alphabet soup of letters and acronyms. So we have our annual action plan. We do an affirmatively furthering fair housing report. We have our CAPER that this committee oversees, which is our consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. Both the annual action plan and the fair housing efforts, as well as the CAPER, all support our federal funding of our Community Development Block Grant, our CDBG, as well as our Home Investment Partnership Program. Again, just to remind everybody, CDBG is directly awarded to us by HUD, which is the Housing and Urban Development Department under the federal government, and we get home funds as passed through Snohomish County. Those are the big buckets. Then we have, of course, those efforts help to support the Community Housing Improvement Program that is embedded in the Community Development Department for the city. We also have what we're about to start talking about, which is our consolidated plan, which is our 5-year long-range guiding document. Our citizen participation plan, which helps to guide us in our public process. We also have human needs funds that this committee oversees. And so those are, of course, kinder. I like to use the word that they're kinder than our federal funds because they're a bit more flexible for agencies to use. And then, of course, we have our notice of funds availability, which happens once we are ready to go out and have applications against some of the funds that we're putting out for the community to use. So that's a lot of alphabet soup, but what does this actually look like with or mean with process? So we're going to continue to move forward. So the first thing I want us to kind of touch on that's really important for what we're about to do this next year is that, so this is actually the 50th year for Community Development Block Grant, for the Community Development Block Grant Program. So HUD launched this program back in 1974. So this year is the 50th year for the nation to celebrate this funding to be put out into the community. Now, the really cool thing, and not to toot the horn, but I'm really actually kind of tickled about this, is that Everett kind of was really quick on the draw to really kind of start using this. And so for 49 years, the city has been dispersing funds. So this was started in 1974. Everett was real quick to then take advantage of this opportunity. And we started putting out funding in the community for under the Community Development Block Grant Program in 1975, which is pretty cool. And that means that we've put at least over $15 million through competitive funding opportunities. That is not comprehensive of, that's kind of where we're at for what our current outstanding loan portfolio is. We have more funds that we've done through other programs, home program or human needs program, but CDBG being, this is the 49th year we've been doing it, that's pretty cool. So with that, one of the things that we want to kind of continue to keep in mind moving forward in this next year, and even moving forward just in general, is that we've been doing this for almost 50 years. And how cool and how unique is that? Because not many municipalities were as quick as Everett was in utilizing this program. So just kind of continue to think about the impact and our use of funds as we start to roll out what we're going to be doing this year. Next, please. Okay, so we have this fun little storytelling little visual that we've created. And you guys are going to see this again and some of the engagement, but we decided to pluck it out to also help with just generally understanding what it is that we're doing, and then to also just kind of give, again, context to our annual process. So we first start with input. And this is kind of, when we talk about the consolidated plan, this is where you guys are at right now. That first green dot is where we're at. So we get input that we gather from the community and from our partners and from the general public that attend our hearings, and some other research that other community partners have done with their own input and needs assessments that they do. But we gather input from the public, and then that input gets collected, presented to you guys, and you guys then determine, okay, so we heard from the community what it is that they want. And now we're going to highlight that these are the needs, these are the things we want to fund. So after you guys decide what needs you want to fund, then city staff, we work on kicking out that NOFA, or that Notice of Funding Availability, that basically opens the door for agencies to apply. After agencies apply, city staff work with agencies to make sure that there's an eligible proposal that can be brought forward for the committee to review. And then you guys then review those proposals and then make recommendations for funding awards. Those recommendations then go to City Council. City Council adopts the awards through a resolution. And then after that, agencies get funded. And so then what happens when agencies get funded? The community benefits from the use of the funds that we have. And then we start the whole thing over again for the next year. This storytelling is what we do on an annual basis, but this is also kind of a very high level view of what we're going to be doing for the consolidated plan as well. It's just that input gathering, that first bubble. Usually we have an August public hearing to determine this. what we're about to do though is have months of working to try and gather input, because the consolidated plan is going to guide needs for 5 years. So we want to make sure that we're doing this not just on an annual basis, which we will use for validation every year, that we're going to be doing this 5-year program or process, but we also want to be able to identify as much as we can right now and in as many ways that we can. So this is just a good thing for us to remember, that this is good for the consolidated plan, but also good for what you guys do on an annual basis anyway. Thank you. Okay, so let's revisit, let's dive into that one acronym about the consolidated plan. So again, what is it? First of all, it's required by HUD because the HUD gives us the money. So HUD says that we have to give them a 5-year plan that says what it is that we're doing with our money that they give us. It does guide the federal spending and the public needs over a 5-year period, but I'm also going to mention that it helps to guide, because we go through such extensive public engagement for determining needs for 5 years. You guys also use it to help to cover needs for not just federal funds, but state and municipal dollars as well. Because of course, that's the whole point, is that we're trying to do our best to identify how can we effectively and efficiently get funding out, and doing this on an annual basis. The consolidated plan is also supported by what's known as the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing, or AFFH report. We have, last time we did this, it was an analysis of impediments to fair housing, but this is going to be, this is more graduated, mature version of that report. The AFFH rule was picked up under current administration. It wasn't something that we had to do last time, but now under the current presidential administration, we are now picking this back up. It is going to be a little bit more intense than what we did for an analysis of impediments. I'm mentioning that because I believe, Susan, I believe you joined us, and a couple other committee members would have joined us right after we drafted our first AI. The AFFH report is basically an AI's bigger sibling, bigger cousin. It's much more engaging and evaluative process on how the city is complying with fair housing practices. We also have the Citizen Participation Plan, or the CPP, that helps to guide the consolidated plan. The CPP is our public process, so it's what dictates that we have to have 15 days for public notice on any meeting that you guys have. It's what dictates our thresholds in case we get unused funds and we have to go back out for public process. It's what dictates our 30-day public comment period. It just guides, again, the public process for everything that we do. So again, the consolidated plan is going over 5 years. That is going to cover the 2025 through the 2029 program years, which really means it's running from July 1st of 2025 until June 30th of 2030, which is just crazy to think about. And yeah, yay, you guys will be doing work until 2030. That's so cool. Okay, let's do the next one. So now we have this wonderful, pretty also visual that we've created that's going to help with kind of seeing where we're at in the process for this. We broke it down to different phases. So we have 5 different phases of how the consolidated plan will roll out. The little cone is showing that currently we are in the February to August period of conducting the needs assessment and market analysis. So this is phase 1, our engagement. In August, that's why you guys have this request for an August public hearing. We will be conducting the public hearing to basically confirm what those needs will be, as well as to help to develop what's known as the strategic plan. The next phase is the actual plan. So once we go out and we determine what needs will be in September, we roll out the NOFA, again, the Notice of Funding Availability, which allows for agencies to apply. And then you guys will review those applications. And then you have, of course, in November, December, our regular calendar to then review the applications that come forth and to make funding recommendations. So now we start kind of in what is probably unknown to you all, which is a phase 3 of validation. So because we need to get research done in the next few months under phase 1 and then conduct this engagement. And then we create a draft plan, in late fall and early winter. Then phase 3 is that we validate what we've drafted. So by that point, we've had a year to collect market analysis research on the housing market, on the economic, our job sector market, on community needs for human services, on infrastructure improvements, just a whole ton of stuff. And what we will do in January is then present this draft 5-year plan and annual plan, which will be for January for the 2025 program year, to the committee and have you guys review it and then give any feedback on that. And then in March of next year, then we go forward for public comment to be able to allow for any public comment on the master plan, this consolidated plan. Phase 4 is then to submit and adopt the plan. That happens, of course, through City Council with presentations to Council and then them taking action on the plans that we're going to help to create through this committee. And then in May of 2025, we submit this to HUD. After that gets submitted to HUD and adopted, knock on wood, of course it would, then we actually have phase 5, which is really to take action with what it is that we're doing. So in July, again, that July 1st date of 2025, everything starts and now agencies can start using the funding that we've worked so hard to identify priorities for and award to agencies and everything that we've done up until that point. This is a very busy slide. It's meant to be a visual representation of the journey though. But before I kind of move forward, any questions on just the overall consolidated plan process so far? Great. Okay. So consolidated plan has a lot. It has, again, I've talked about the market analysis, the strategic plan, the first year of the 5-year period, which is the 2025 annual action plan. But what are we really focusing on today? And we're going to bring it back and say, and again, remind everybody that we're here to talk about the needs assessment, which is going to focus on public engagement. And so with that, I'm going to kind of roll out and we're going to reintroduce Chelsea. So Chelsea is helping us because this is a 5-year or 5-month process for engagement. Chelsea is helping us in leading this effort. So Chelsea is, again, our community development project coordinator. This is Chelsea's first time with attending a CAC meeting as well. And if you guys have any questions or you want any more information while this effort is going on, of course, Vicki and I are still available, but Chelsea's probably going to be the first go-to because she's going to be helping to oversee all the material that we're rolling out, as well as kind of tracking our engagement efforts that we're going to be doing over these next 5 months. I would go ahead and already tell you to screenshot or write down her information that's on the screen. That is her email address. That is her phone number, her office line phone number. So please go ahead and note that somewhere so that in the future, if you have any questions about anything, you can reach out and get to know Chelsea. Okay, with that, Chelsea, take it over.
Good. Awesome. Well, we are going to talk public engagement and outreach. As Kimbra said, this is my first time, not only at this meeting, but in doing this effort, and really excited to work with all of you in conducting this. And I have my notes to reference just in case, because I don't have everything quite memorized. So Vicki, if you could just go to the next slide for me, please. Awesome. So over our next kind of 5 months together, our goal is to be really intentional with the engagement and outreach that we do. We recognize that, one, as committee members, you all have lives outside of volunteering your time to the city of Everett. We also recognize that a lot of businesses, organizations, and those that we're going to be conducting outreach and engagement to, they might be at capacity, and staffing and different resources are thin. And so we want to make sure that when we are reaching out, we're really intentional with how we're doing that. And so really looking at how we can use groups and spaces and events that are already taking place rather than trying to recreate the wheel is going to be a goal and a theme that you hear us talk about a lot. We also recognize that survey fatigue is a real thing, and so really appreciate those that are going to help us rally and get excited about doing surveys. But we want this to be seen as an opportunity to engage with the community. As a government entity, oftentimes I think there's some bias and stereotypes that can come up within the community. And our goal is to engage authentically and one that builds those relationships, that gives folks an opportunity to engage with our committee members and with staff. And then for us to be able to find ways to have the feedback loop closed as well. So again, we're not just asking and taking information, but we're able to then communicate the why we're asking for this information and how they can be a part of this bigger plan with us. As Kimber mentioned, you saw my information on the screen before. I will be following up. You will hear from me a lot. I apologize in advance, but our goal is to have 1,000 surveys conducted, and the only way that we're going to reach our goal is if we're all a part of it. So I know that everyone's capacity is going to look different in how they're able to get involved, and we'll talk more about there's something for everyone. That's kind of our goal, but that is our end goal, is to have those 1,000 surveys collected. I feel very confident that we can make that happen. That is going to be worth celebrating once we get there as well. So if you could just, next slide. Thank you. Awesome. So the good news is the survey is live and ready for folks to start if they want. The webpage is also live. We just got that finalized in the last few days, and so that's why you haven't heard from us yet, but we are trying to incorporate QR codes into a lot of the materials that are going to be going out into this community, and then also we will have hard copy and paper copies of the surveys available both for you as committee members. I can coordinate with you to pick them up or drop them off, but a lot of our organizations and businesses may also want those as well. So there is no way that someone can't access the survey. And then the link is also on the webpage. Awesome. So as I mentioned, the webpage is live. So if you visit that everettwa.gov/2025 con plan, what you will be able to see there is an overview of information. It is a landing page that we're going to continue to build as we go, but that is where you'll be able to get the most up-to-date information. As I mentioned, there's the link for the survey. There's also a community grants email address that folks can reach out. That will be monitored by myself as well. So if people have questions about how to get involved or information for translation that's needed, certainly direct them to the landing page as well. And then in the future weeks, we're going to have an interactive map, which is really cool. Kimbra's been helping us support with some other team members. But it's essentially a map where folks can zoom in and zoom out and be able to see the different projects that have been funded over those 49 years. And it's pretty incredible when you zoom all the way out and you're able to see all of the dots that represent all of the impact. And it reminds us why collecting the surveys and making sure that voices are represented and amplified in this process is really important, because it does directly impact work that happens in the city of Everett. So the landing page is somewhere I encourage you to continue to visit and stay connected. We're also going to be doing some email blasts and e-newsletters. So if you haven't already signed up, again, visit that webpage and you're able to do that. That way, when you have those come across your inbox, not only can you read them and review them and feel good that you're a part of the committee that's supporting it, but our hope is that you'll then share that as well, and you'll forward that to your networks and within your community. And then we do have flyers and posters finalized. Here's an example of the flyer on the screen. The flyer and poster design are the exact same. They're just available in 2 different sizes. They're also both available electronically. And we are in the process of having them translated to Spanish. And so we should have those back by next week. So as soon as they're all printed and ready for well, they are ready for distribution, but as soon as they're printed and available for you to pick up, I can coordinate that with you. Yes, Susan, I see your hand.
So English and Spanish are the only languages that you're doing at this time?
Currently, to roll out the posters and the flyers. However, we do have from the Everett Public Schools, we received the top 10 the list of top 10 spoken languages. And so what we're doing is trying to find out where we can utilize that. But I think that that is something we'll have to roll out in the weeks and kind of months ahead, but we do have resources available to translate in additional languages as needed and requested.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thank you. Are you okay with that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So for outreach, as I mentioned, being intentional, one of the things that I think we can all probably recognize, but when we were reading some of the best practices that other communities have done as well, really meeting folks where they're at. And so being able to, as I said, not recreate and duplicate efforts, but instead, what are events already happening, whether that's the farmers market or different city-sponsored events, maybe local agencies are having resource fairs where folks are naturally already congregating to. And so really trying to piggyback and partner with those already existing places to meet people where they're at. Some examples of work that we're doing behind the scenes. Kimber and I met with Everett Public Library. It's a really cool opportunity for us to engage with them. They're really on board with supporting our engagement efforts. We're going to be following up with their staff to make sure that they feel comfortable in having the speaking points and just general language down so that they can also know how to direct folks to answer questions. But they're also going to help us in being able to send out messages through their e-newsletter, which we learned has a reach of like 20,000 people. And so using the library, which again is a natural gathering place. Our community support team of social workers, again, you know, they're in the community already meeting folks that represent that low to moderate income, folks that are maybe unhoused or going through different crises. And so being able to not during the time of crisis ask people questions, but in their follow-up work that they're doing and that aftercare and that continuing to check in with people, giving them the optional opportunity to participate in this survey. So again, we're getting really creative with how we can engage the community and make sure that even if folks don't have access to a phone for a QR code or aren't in a place to pick up a hard copy survey, we're doing our best to meet them where they're at in getting them the opportunity to complete the survey. And then we've got staff that are part of the Everett Faith in Action Group, the Hot Meals Coalition. So we'll take the lead internally on some of those outreach and engagements. I know at one of our subcommittee meetings, Michelle had the idea of connecting with the co-op to do a table outside of their doors to engage with folks as they're coming in and out. And that is the kind of thing that we would love to and will work with folks on doing. Again, we're going to get creative with meeting folks where they're at. So, and then we're also adding something new as of just recently, but we're going to do a consolidated plan lunch and learn. So I ask you to pencil in March 27th from 11:30 to 12:30. We'll talk more in a minute about it, but again, giving folks an opportunity to understand the why, especially with our subrecipients, which is a big part of that outreach that the committee is focused on, making sure that they understand the importance of this plan that maybe they hear about every 5 years or they hear about in passing, but don't always know the importance of it. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our goal is to have a lot of different ways for folks to get involved and engaged, and no matter what your capacity and ableness to support these efforts is, there's something for you to do. So one of the things that we would love to see folks do is sharing social media posts. So we're going to be working with our communications team. They've created lots of great graphics for us to use. And so we're going to be posting those on the City of Everett Facebook page. As committee members, it would be awesome if you could not only like the post, because I think it makes everyone feel good when we have lots of likes, but what really helps is if you share the Facebook post, because that's what allows us to have a broader audience. And if at anything you just share, that would be great. But if you're willing to write just a sentence or two of, hey, I'm Michelle and I'm a member of this committee. This is what it means to me if you participate in this survey. Do you have 7 to 10 minutes today to help me in collecting information? If you don't feel comfortable writing your own social media post, I can help give you something to use. But I think that that's a really great way for us to reach a new audience. And then, as I mentioned, distributing posters and flyers. We're going to talk more about kind of what the goal of the committee members are, but we will have an endless supply of posters and flyers for people to be able to share. Our goal is that all committee members distribute 10 posters, ideally by the end of March, but we're a little later than I thought in getting them printed, so we might extend that deadline by like a week or two. But again, the goal is everyone's involved with this, and we'll talk more about where specifically to distribute that to. And then engaging with subrecipients. So the Lunch and Learn that I just mentioned is going to be an opportunity where this week I'm going to be sending out an email to the subrecipient list. And after we kind of identify what committee members' top picks are for agencies to engage with, I'm going to be copying you on that email that I sent to subrecipients. And they're going to get a, hey, I'm Chelsea, this is the work that I'm doing to support the community development team. This is why we're reaching out to you. We invite you to attend a Lunch and Learn on March 27th at 11:30, where you can hear from Kimbra and I about the importance of the consolidated plan, what this means for you as a subrecipient, and how we can partner together in reaching a broader audience and helping reach our goal of 1,000 surveys. I'm also going to let them know that I've copied a committee member on that email, and that committee member is going to be following up with them to drop off posters at their organization. So then it's a natural kind of handoff for and first touch for you as committee members to be able to engage with subrecipients. It's also something too where, you know, we've got some veteran committee members and some new committee members. And so we can talk about what that looks like if you want to do them in pairs or kind of a buddy system. So no one feels like they're left alone to kind of navigate this. So we can talk more about that as well. But that's going to be our first step. And then on the 27th, when we do a Lunch and Learn, I anticipate it's going to be a lot of the leadership level of organizations that attend that Lunch and Learn. And so it's helpful for them as leadership, again, to understand what the consolidated plan is, why we're reaching out to their staff, and what it is that we're asking for. But I don't imagine for most organizations, the CEOs are going to be the ones that are helping us actually reach the folks that they're working with, right? And so at that meeting, what we're going to ask them is, hey, who from your staff should we be engaging with moving forward, and who can our committee members follow up with for additional conversations? And what we're going to offer to them is an opportunity to have you all go and meet with them, whether that be their leadership team, their management team, it could be their all staff, and we will walk with you every step of the way. You will have speaking points, you will have materials to reference. This isn't something that I think we need to overcomplicate, because there's a lot of details and technical language. And if folks want to dive into that, certainly we can welcome that conversation. But it's more of the, hey, we need to amplify the voices and you can help us do that. This is what I'm asking for your partnership in. Can I have some time to meet with you? And these meetings can be, or presentations, I think, can be as short as 5 minutes up to maybe 20, 30 minutes if needed. But again, we're trying to be respectful of time and capacity as well. But we do feel really important that as committee members, engaging and being that point person for subrecipients is really important, not just for subrecipients to feel connected, but for y'all to have an opportunity to understand who these people are that you help fund, with the organizations, the work that's happening, because a lot has changed over the last few years, and I imagine those organizations have as well. So talking a lot. Any questions so far? Yes.
Chelsea, so who we're really after is not just the sub-recipients, but we're after the people that receive the services to help contribute to the needs assessment. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I'm getting from that a sub-recipient is really the agency level, and that we're really after the recipient, but we're going through the agency to get there through their channels of engagement.
Yeah.
Is that
yes.
accurate? Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think that, again, there's been transition that's happened at a lot of nonprofits, especially, or local organizations. 5 years ago seems like a lifetime ago for those that were around when they did the outreach and engagement plan last time. And so it's an opportunity for the organization's leadership to understand why is it we're reaching out to your staff? Oh, this is a funding opportunity. This benefits me. Not only that, it gives folks an opportunity to help identify what those needs are.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And it's really, you know, some of the larger agencies that we work with are probably familiar, but it's some of the smaller agencies that seek some of the human needs funds and that are really who we want to kind of pull out and contact and be able to get their take on the needs assessment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we'll go over it too, but I have a sign up sheet for kind of initial subrecipients to reach out to, as well as poster distribution. But there's endless places we can do posters and flyers to. But as a committee, and what Kimber and I are really committed to is making sure that we first do poster and flyer and initial outreach to subrecipients. And that includes folks that access the human needs funds as well, before we kind of go on a wild brainstorm of everywhere else,
Right.
That we're wanting to reach. So thanks. Any other questions? Okay. So for committee assignments, because that sounds nicer than homework, the first thing is that you're going to email me for subrecipient outreach and poster distribution. For the folks that are here in person, we can pass around the sheet. I know, Michelle, you've had a first pass at the subrecipient list. I'm happy to go over that with you. And then for those of you that weren't able to join or are on the screen, I'll be sending out that email tomorrow so you can kind of do your first, second, and third pick of who you'd like to connect with. And then we're also going to be sending a poster distribution. Again, this is not a comprehensive list, but based on where we want to make sure to have equal representation, both in the downtown Everett area, North Everett, South Everett, and east of Broadway. These are kind of the main areas that help to make sure that we are evenly distributed throughout the geographic area. So you're going to email me that information. You're going to familiarize yourself with the engagement kit. So again, this will be something that is sent to you, but the engagement kit is our take at giving you kind of a tool that you can take with you to these meetings as you're doing outreach, as you're conducting engagement efforts that have the acronym reference for you. It has the image of the visual storytelling. It has that consolidated plan and roadmap, and then also has some speaking points and just some general quick facts for folks to know. So it's our gift to you to empower you to use that as you're engaging with the community. Again, you're not expected to be an expert and know all of the things, and it does remind you on there that if at any point folks are asking questions that you don't have the answer to, it is completely appropriate to kick them back to me. If I don't know the answer, I will find Kimbra right down the hall, and we will get back to you. And my information's also on that engagement kit. Again, I warned you in advance, you're gonna hear from me a lot, so that's all right. We're going to get 1,000 surveys and then we'll celebrate. So once you familiarize yourself with the engagement kit and I have finalized for you your outreach efforts and your next steps on who you're contacting, then we can really kick off completing this survey. And what we are asking also is, before you ask somebody to complete the survey, complete it yourself. If you haven't already, it's really helpful to be able to say, hey, this was really easy. Hopefully that's what you all say. Took me 5 to 7 minutes. This is what to expect. Again, Vicki and Kimber and I did a lot of work ahead of time of launching this to try to take as much of that technical language and nuance that was on the previous version of the survey and try to simplify it as much as possible. So again, we're removing barriers. We're making it feel, hopefully it's a more welcoming tool and survey for folks to participate in. But as committee members, we are asking that you actually complete the survey before you ask others to do that as well. And then, as I mentioned, finding a buddy or mentor. This isn't required, but again, it's nice to have an accountability buddy that's built into, hey, want to go do poster distribution or hand out some flyers together, or everyone's at different levels with their comfort and reaching out to folks and having these conversations. And so maybe your schedule doesn't align for you to go out to meet with an organization together, but maybe instead you can hop on the call and practice your spiel with them, right? Or get feedback, or just feel, again, a little more comfortable in having these conversations. You can also do that with Kimbra and I, but it might be nice for committee members to get to know each other as well. And then if I haven't said it enough, continue to email me all of your outreach and engagement, whether it's formal. Michelle says, hey, I finished meeting with my organization. Here are the notes from that conversation. We're tracking everything in an Excel sheet. So it can be that formal follow-up. It can also be, hey, I was at an event and happened to have a conversation and this group wants some follow-up information, or whatever that may be. So don't worry about bombarding me with emails. This will be all tracked, and then we'll also want to be able to celebrate after this is done, to see where we did our outreach and all the places we were able to engage when we celebrate our survey milestone. So any questions about assignments?
I would just add that I was really happy to be able to complete the survey on my phone. So I intentionally did it there, and that was really great. So
Yay.
yeah.
That makes me happy to hear. Yeah, it should be both in the desktop and the computer view pretty user friendly. So any questions from online? Okay. Like I said, you can also give folks this email, and this is a voicemail box that will go straight to voicemail, but it is checked regularly. So again, if folks have questions or they have questions about translation services, they can send us an email, give us a call at either my information or the one that's available on the screen, and I will get back to them either way. So I think that's it for me. Turning it back over to Kimbra.
Whew.
That's good. Got that all done.
We have a lot going on, and you guys haven't popped up on our side for video yet, but there you go. We have a lot going on. I think that the main takeaway from this is the understanding that what we're about to do is going to guide what projects you guys see coming your way for the next 5 years. And I'm going to give an example. So if all of a sudden I'm going to make something up, we get somebody that is really into, they say that everyone in the city of Everett needs to have a wonderful, beautiful crown. They want to have a crown. Everybody in the city needs to have a crown. And so guess what you guys are going to see? You're going to see the fact that the community needs is that we need to have more jewelry, and that's what the proposals you guys will get for the next 5 years are jewelry applications. So the main takeaway is that just understand that what it is that you're about to do is going to direct where the money goes for 5 years. And if that is the most important takeaway from this. That's the point to discuss with agencies. That's the point to discuss with community members. That's the point to discuss with citizens. And with that, again, reminding that anybody can take the survey. We're actually even going to encourage city staff who work in Everett. So it's not just the people that live in Everett. We want people that work in Everett, visitors, to take the survey. But when it comes down to it, these funds still have to benefit lower moderate income persons, vulnerable persons. And so we can get community input, and we might get community input that says, hey, I want to see the first all glass skyscraper built in Everett. And it's like, okay, well, that's fantastic. But if it's not used for affordable housing, guess what? We're not funding it, right? So, it's just kind of maintain knowledge that, yes, we want to reach far and wide. But at the end of the day, we also want to benefit those that are most vulnerable in our community. There is a lot that we presented today. We're going to be coming back with emails to summarize all of this. For those that were here today, thank you so much for being able to hear all of this. Fully expect that we're going to probably ask that you guys help to also champion this message to not only your other community members, but others as well. And we have there's so much that we're doing with this that if anybody has a question, I see that Susan is our first question, we'd be happy to just reach out to me or Chelsea or Vicky, and we'd be happy to give you more information of anything that's come up. Susan?
Do we have a list? I mean, I know low mod, I know what that means, but do we have another list of what the definition of who is most vulnerable? I mean, I know, I know what I think it is, but there may be more people or community members that would fit that definition or description. So,
That's
Do we have
that's a very good question. There's, so your funding, the funding that we all work with, right, has a couple of groups that we can do. So we have lower moderate income persons. HUD has already determined that there's what's called presumed benefit groups that, whether it's not income based or not, there are certain groups that HUD's already saying, we're going to assume that they're already vulnerable. Seniors,
right,
persons with disabilities,
right,
veterans,
okay,
victims of violence. Oh my goodness. There might be one more. Unhoused persons is, I think, the only other one I can think of. That's under the federal classification. And then under the municipal classification, the city of Everett, with your human needs funds that you guys help to oversee, uses the term vulnerable residents, but it's meant to kind of be this kind of open-ended kind of interpretation of what vulnerability could mean, because of course that's something that can be constantly evaluated based on whatever the program or the project is, right? Ideally, one of those things is that, of course, again, we want to serve people that are in need. And so typically those are people that are more lower income or moderate income. But that being said, like childcare subsidies, there are people that are around the 100% AMI threshold that still need childcare subsidies. So vulnerable under the municipal code is a little bit more flexible in its interpretation, and that's done intentionally. And so with that, I'm going to say that we have our standard protected classes, in addition to everything that I've already mentioned about low income persons and HUD presumed benefit groups. And of course, we also want to be able to support people that may otherwise feel have discrimination or need some kind of classification of protected class otherwise under what, of course, not only federal, but the Washington state expanded protected class categories are. So just continue to, as much as you can, keep all of that in your head for balancing out.
But that's why I asked, because in my definition or in the descriptor of, the most vulnerable, children would definitely be in there, or low moderate.
Absolutely, yeah. Youth is
yeah. Just wanted to make sure that my definition, kind of matches or at least dovetails.
Meets the intent. Yeah. And very good question with that. And so to that extent, I'm going to just add one little point that, we're asking that the committee members help to do outreach for subrecipients, because we've heard before that you guys want to learn more about subrecipients. Mm-hmm. So this is also us giving you the opportunity, if you've ever wanted to go and meet with that agency and ask them about, some of their priorities that they come to us for funding for, there's never been a better time to take this opportunity to go and ask and meet with them. And in addition to that, it's also the ability for you guys to really be able to put something more than just a black and white piece of paper or screen that you usually have, and to really kind of see the services in practice if you get the chance to do that. Outside of subrecipients, though, we have a mandated list that requires that we meet with private entities. So I'm talking about even broadband companies, schools, of course, developers, both, commercial and housing and residential developers. We're going to be meeting with every city department. We're going to be meeting with community partners. We're going to be there's just an extensive list. We're going to be meeting with emergency service personnel. There's an extensive list of who we need to have contact with. So we are also asking the committee for kind of what's a little bit of a smaller percentage of the overall outreach, but giving you guys the opportunity to maximize who it is that you're really reaching out to, because those are going to be the groups that come to you asking for funding later. They want you to understand what program that is that they're asking that you help to support. So I'm just mentioning that because in case you're thinking, oh, man, it'd be really nice to just put something in Safeway, and they're not a subrecipient, but wouldn't it be nice to have a flyer up in Safeway? Again, totally fine, but we want you to prioritize subrecipients first. Mm-hmm. And then when you are ready to post that poster in Safeway or Subway or wherever I was about to say with any of the different retail locations, then connect with Chelsea. And the whole point is let's get the word out. Let's get people to engage with this. I may have stepped away when Chelsea mentioned it, but I'm going to end this with last time we got a little bit less than 400 survey responses, which means that 400 people got to direct where money went for 5 years. 400 people is not even 1% of the population in the city of Everett. So it would be great for us to at least get 1% of the city's population to give feedback on where this money should go. So just kind of recognize that that's the reason why we're also doing this 1,000 is that, gosh, it'd be nice to get 1%.
I also think that's important to tell people.
Okay.
Right? I think that's an important talking point, actually, that just that less than 1% of our population should not get to determine where this money goes. That really just struck a huge chord for me. So thank you for saying it.
So we will add that. We will add that little nugget into some of the information that we then pass along. And then once we do outreach again for you guys to be able to remember that. And of course, again, if that struck a chord, Susan, I'm gonna ask you to then carry that chord and that note for the next 5 months. Oh no.
That will be. I'm gonna lead with that because that's actually democracy right there. Or lack of. And that. Yeah. I feel strongly. All right, sorry.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to kind of wrap up and not do any more consolidated plan stuff because we have other things that will be coming out. And goodness gracious, man, we went over a lot. And it'd be nice to see this in a summarized email, wouldn't it? Yeah. So that you guys don't have to remember all of this. So we're going to be moving forward with that. But then just a couple of quick staff updates. There are a couple of important things that we need to kind of just think about. Of course, we still have subcommittees going on. So we have the application subcommittee. You guys haven't met yet, but we're about to, I believe, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, sometime in March. Yeah, I know it's in March. The engagement subcommittee, though, has been meeting and will continue to meet to help support everything that you guys are doing as the bigger committee for this work. Again, we're going to need to establish officers again at this next meeting. We're going to probably have consistent monthly meetings from this point out. It'd be great to maintain quorum for that. But if we don't have quorum, then goodness, I will just take anybody that's active and engaged and willing to move it forward because this is a lot of work. And we are asking you guys as our community champions to really kind of help to convey the importance of this. With that, I also need to mention that, so quorum is something that this committee can sometimes struggle with. You guys are very busy, but and I very much appreciate those that do show up consistently. You guys have that input. And I cannot tell you how much that means to be able to have that. But one of the things that we cannot do is we cannot be held hostage to the fact that we cannot have quorum being met, because of the importance and the timing constraints that we're under, especially with our federal funds. So we are going to be moving forward with a we're going to be moving forward on a reorganization of our ordinance for this committee. And we are changing it from 11 members to 9. And so then that helps with quorum. 9 members is the standard composition of citizen committees for the city. So this is bringing a little bit more in compliance with that, but also it changes it so that if I'm missing one person, well, then that's still okay because now I have quorum. But I got to tell you, sometimes that one person makes the entire difference of us being able to uphold action or not. So we've got to try and continue to maintain the ability for us to have what that quorum is so that we can continue to have funds put out timely. That ordinance will be coming to City Council in March. And right now, there's not going to be any change really with those that are on the committee. So, we're not going to be seeing Alexis, thank goodness, is our current new existing member, and she gets to stay with us. And those that are here, you know, it's like you're not gonna see any shift. It's just we were already having vacancies, so this is just keeping us in line with that. So that again, quorum is not dependent on 6 people; it's now dependent on just 5. But as you see tonight, even that was kind of hard for us to meet. So keep an eye out for the ordinance to come through in March for City Council. That has to go through 3 briefings. And with that, that is all the updates I have. Okay. Continue to keep an eye out for meetings. Again, we're going to probably try and do this monthly. I know that we still got to kind of massage some timing with everybody, but other than that, because we don't have quorum, we don't have to hold action for a motion to dismiss, guys. So thank you so much for being here. Keep an eye out for Chelsea to start reaching out and engaging and working with you all. And thank you so much and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Drive safely home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.